Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us during the Lytham Partners 2024 Investor Select Conference. My name is Ben Shamsian, Vice President of Lytham Partners. During this Fireside Chat webcast, we welcome Reviva Pharmaceuticals, ticker symbol RVPH on the NASDAQ. Joining us today from the company is Lax Bhat, Reviva's Chief Executive Officer. Also joining us is Jim Molloy, Senior Research Analyst with Alliance Global Partners, whom I've asked to moderate today's Fireside Chat. Jim covers a wide variety of biotechnology companies at Alliance Global Partners, including Reviva. Before I turn it over to Jim, I want to remind everyone that management is available for one-on-one meetings throughout the conference. If you've not already signed up and would like a one-on-one, please send me an email at shamsian@lythampartners.com. That's SHAMSIAN@lythampartners.com, or visit lythampartners.com/select2024. With that said, Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to be here. I am, as you said, James Molloy, the Senior Biotech and Specialty Pharmaceutical Analyst at Alliance Global Partners. We currently cover Reviva with a buy rating and a $16 price target. It's my great pleasure to introduce Lax to you guys, and I'll be the moderator for today's call. And Lax, maybe to kick it off, could you please just give us a brief background of Reviva and yourself?
Sure. So Ben and Jim, thanks for having me here. My name is Lax Bhat. As you introduced, I'm a founder and CEO of Reviva Pharmaceuticals. Reviva is a late-stage company focused on developing novel therapies for diseases of neurotransmitter deficit or dysfunction. That's our core strength. We have currently 2 molecules discovered in-house in development. RP-1208, this is an early-stage molecule. It's in early-stage development and IND-enabling studies for obesity and depression. The most advanced molecule is brilaroxazine. We have announced first pivotal phase 3 data, top-line data in last October, 3 months ago. So soon we will be, disclosing a fully analyzed data sets. So 2023 was a eventful year. We believe in the next 12 years will be transformative year for the company with the multiple clinical data coming out. And then we are expecting NDA for schizophrenia indication mid of next year. So we do have other programs in development focusing on neuropsychiatry as well as autoimmune diseases or diseases of neuro inflammation. So to summarize, in the next 12 to 18 months, we believe, based on the anticipated clinical data readout, this would be a transformative year for the company.
I'd like to touch on that a little bit. The phase 3 recovery data you guys reported last October, it looked pretty good. It looked really good, quite honestly. Can you walk the listeners through a little bit about that data and why, I'm saying it looks good, why you think it looks good, and why in fact it is good?
Sure. The phase 3 data, top-line data announced for treatment in patients with acute schizophrenia. So as many viewers here, if they are not familiar with the disease, schizophrenia is a debilitating mental illness. Often the treatment requires lifelong. Majority patients, they need treatment several years to lifelong. And then there are, some twist to the indication in the sense schizophrenia is not a single disease, and it is a disease of multiple symptom domains. That makes it more complicated. And then another aspect of the disease is most patients, the onset of disease, schizophrenia, is early teenage or early adulthood. So that means when they get the schizophrenia disease or disorder, we call it, so the treatment expectation is at least the next couple of years, so lifelong in these patients. So having said that, so any effective treatment for schizophrenia should be, accommodative of or managing multiple symptom domains associated with schizophrenia. That's very critical. And then also, the treatment should be safe and tolerable enough to take long-term or lifelong. If there is a deficiency, either in the efficacy to address multiple symptom domains or, suboptimal to treat, suboptimal in treating these symptoms along with the tolerability that could lead to discontinuation in patients with the treatment. That is one of the major unmet need what we see in the current treatment. Other aspect is at least based on the currently available treatments, to call them as antipsychotics, seen several side effects. Often these side effects are irreversible. Patients have to live with the rest of their life. Drug-induced metabolic side effects, neuroleptic side effects. These are affecting not only patients, also as well as payers and the society in general, economic burdens these patients and then families have to go through. So to summarize, the treatment, ideal treatment should have broad spectrum efficacy to treat multiple symptom domains over the treatment period, and then also should be safer enough to take, tolerable enough to take lifelong. So there is several unmet need. I believe our data announced top line data in last October. So addresses all this major unmet need. It has shown a significant improvement in 4 weeks of treatment with statistically significant outcome. Placebo-adjusted outcome on the primary endpoint. We use a scale called PANSS, positive and negative symptom scale. That's a scale used for evaluating severity of patients. And then we have seen close to 24-point decrease in PANSS score in 4 weeks of treatment, and then placebo-adjusted 10-point decrease in PANSS score. So this is compared to widely used standard of care. We believe this is much superior data. The second thing is in the schizophrenia treatment, and the secondary endpoints play very critical role, because primary endpoint primarily reflective of stabilizing patients in 4 to 6 weeks of treatment. Secondary endpoints especially are focused on negative symptom, cognitive dysfunction, and social functioning, sexual functioning. All these things are measure for to a great extent predictor of long-term outcome. All these pre-specified secondary endpoints showed statistically significant improvement. This is to my knowledge, it is very encouraging and remarkable. And then lastly, other 2 points what I touched upon at the beginning of this conversation, dropout rate. Dropout rate, we reported 16%, while most approved antipsychotics, especially the widely used standard of care, reported to cause around a 30 to 45% dropout in 4 to 6 weeks of treatment. Our drug has shown only 16% dropout, the efficacious dose, that is around anywhere around a 30 to over 50% better than some of the widely used standard of care. That got to be derived from robust efficacy as well as a good tolerability associated with our drug. So overall, the side effects as well, we haven't seen any clinically meaningful difference between the treatment arm and placebo. That's also very encouraging, especially for a long-term treatment in this patient population.
Yeah, then the 50 milligram data in October they reported. I mean, you hit on your primary endpoint with a clinically meaningful and statistically significant p of less than 0.0001 or 0.001, excuse me. And that and then hit all your secondaries. It doesn't happen very often in clinical trials. So that's I thought those results were great. Is why I'm saying I really like the story. I like the results. What additional data should we expect when the open label extension reads out fourth quarter of this year? And in the PAN score, the primary endpoint that you hit, that's the same primary endpoint in the next the confirmatory phase 3, right? So you're just going to redo the same trial and hopefully have similar results.
Yes, and the primary endpoint, the reduction in PAN score compared to placebo has been it's been the criteria used for approving all the antipsychotics, approved antipsychotics currently in the market, or antipsychotics approved in the last 25 years. So the primary endpoint will be the same, what we had in the last trial. So in the second trial, what we are initiating, it's the same criteria will be used. And then also, in addition to the secondary endpoint, some of the exploratory endpoints what we used in the last trial, such as sexual side functioning and neuroinflammation, we are putting this one as a secondary endpoint in the coming trial. Having secondary endpoint, it would allow us to, if we are able to reproduce similar data, this would be a good situation when we commercialize this drug. And then secondly, the difference between the first trial and second trial, the second trial will be 6 weeks trial compared to the one we completed here. And then low dose, we will be putting 30 milligram instead of the 15 in the last trial. These are the minor changes what we made in the second trial. Otherwise, essentially, it is a repetition of what we did in the first trial. So in the additional data, you mentioned what we can expect. So we are almost near completion of analyzing all the data, primary, secondary efficacy, and then safety. So in next month, we are planning to have a KOL event. We will be announcing soon the date for KOL event. In the KOL event, we will invite very well-known KOL in this space. We will disclose additional data, full set of data, and there are multiple conferences in the next 6 months. So we will be presenting the data end of March. That's the first neuropsychiatric conference. And then also additional conferences we will be presenting different additional as we analyze the additional data. So what we can expect in the next 6 months or in 2024. So additional data analyzed will be published, are presented in various scientific conferences. And we would like to publish multiple papers coming out of this phase 3 study, as well as some meta-analysis data, so that one can make a good comparison of our data generated in the phase 3 and then also generated in the priorly completed large phase 2 study, as well as some of the standard of care comparison of our drug versus some data for the standard of care based on the meta-analysis. All these things will be published in the coming months. So these are, we believe, this would be very informative for our shareholders and investors to learn more about our drug, the profile of our drug, and then the benefits of, potential benefit of brilaroxazine for treatment of schizophrenia.
One of the things you touched upon was obviously the safety, the low dropouts, and I know this is an indication where the people on this for life, so safety is a huge issue. Can you talk a little bit about some of the mechanisms of action for brilaroxazine that you think drives this safety, and how that will help it, compare versus standard of care, or even some of the new recent Karuna or Cerevel Therapeutics data they put out?
Sure. Often, when we talk about new drug, so we mainly focus on, or it's a general tendency to focus on only the mechanism of action for the target. That's a good thing. But since it is a lifelong treatment, it is also extremely important to understand what are the off-target activities. Off-target activities are extremely important to find the right dose for the treatment, but also what would be the side effects you expect from this drug. That's extremely important. Our drug, it is a rational drug design. It is fine-tuned to have potent selectivity for key receptors that are implicated in the primary pathobiology of schizophrenia. And then also we fine-tune the molecule to have minimizing the off-target activities. Minimizing off-target activities are extremely important in the drug development or drugs used for a long-term or a lifelong treatment. So having said that, to summarize, so schizophrenia is not a single disease. It is a mix of positive symptom, negative symptom, mood that mainly comprise of depression and anxiety, cognitive dysfunction, and then lastly, neuroinflammation. So ideally, we need to address all this equally, so to have a better outcome. So currently available treatments by and large address positive symptom based on the primary endpoint. That's how drugs are approved to the market. However, if you look at carefully the secondary endpoints, so out of 13 new drugs got approved to my knowledge in the last 40 years, only around 7 drugs showed efficacy, significant efficacy on secondary endpoints, especially negative symptoms. That's very critical to have a long-term benefit in this patient population. And cognitive dysfunction and social functioning, sexual functioning, all these things are very important in this patient population to have a long-term outcome. So most drugs do not have, at least to my knowledge, data for all these critical secondary endpoints. What we see is a primary endpoint, good efficacy, in the sense statistically significant outcome, and then positive symptom on the secondary endpoint. So we have shown efficacy for primary and then key secondary endpoints highlighted. That is related to, that profile is related to the key receptors, dopamine partial agonist activity, and then serotonergic activities are 5-HT2B, D4, and then 5-HT2A, 7 activities. So this is about the selectivity for anywhere picomolar to less than nanomolar to around 6 nanomolar activity. Now, coming to the side effects, off-target activities, to a great extent, we know what can cause side effects in this patient population for proven targets. So our drug has either weaker activity, anywhere 100 to 200-fold weaker activity compared to primary target D2, or a 5-HT2B. If you consider that is as a primary target, 5-HT2B activity is much more potent. So having weaker activity for off-targets that are known to cause metabolic, cardiometabolic side effects. So that profile makes our drug more safer compared to currently available, widely used standard of care. And then clinical data generated in close to 650 patients from 2 studies that supports the data. So that's the key difference. In other words, to summarize, the pharmacological profile of our drug, it is a potent activity, selectivity for the target, and then weaker activity or no activity, clinically meaningful activity for off targets that makes our drug clearly differentiated product. And then on top of it, having seen neuro anti-inflammatory effect in various translational model, that gave us a good confidence to evaluate the neuroinflammation data in the pivotal study. We believe that has resulted a positive outcome we will be sharing soon in the next KOL meeting.
And one of the things I want to touch on, the second phase 3 RECOVER-2 trial starting first quarter this year, and I think you've guided to data early or first quarter next year. That's a little tighter than the 2 years it took for the RECOVER trial, probably due to COVID, right? How do you know that you keep on track on that tight timeline?
Sure. The reason for that is if you look at, we gave the data in the RECOVER-1 trial in 20 months, we completed. So when we started the study in early 2022, it was a COVID period, still the pandemic was there. And then we had some uphill task in execution of the trial, but still we were able to navigate that difficult phase, and then we were able to complete the study in 20 months. But in the second study, we will be retaining almost 95% of the sites where they were part of our RECOVER-1 will be participating in the second study. That's not only with our study, most studies are conducted like that. Second study will go much faster compared to the first study. Historically, this type of studies are completed in about 14 to 15 months time. So our expectation is we will be starting this study in the Q1 sometime in March, and then we anticipate completing in early Q2 of 2025 next year. So that is of course it's a tight timeline, but it is doable, we believe, because based on the historical data and then our previous experience in executing the trial.
Excellent. And then maybe could you discuss, touch on briefly some of the other indications for brilaroxazine? It's really a pipeline and a product.
Sure. If you look at, as I briefly alluded, neuropsychiatric conditions are associated with neuroinflammation. So when patients suffer from psychiatric disorders, so that is obviously they are going through several years of psychiatric conditions that causes neuroinflammation, and then that eventually leads to autoimmune diseases. Some of them are very well-known skin disease, atopic dermatitis, and then psoriasis. These are, at least based on the clinical literature, as high as around 45% in this patient population. So our drug has shown good efficacy in translational model for skin disease psoriasis. Currently, there is no cure, huge market, close to $28 billion market currently. It is anticipated around $58 billion by 2032. So based on the available data, and then in the psoriasis model, and then based on the available data for neuroinflammation, clinical data, and then historical literature data, psychiatric conditions and psoriasis, the comorbidity in this patient population, we believe, let's say, our drug brilaroxazine has the potential to treat psoriasis. And then we are starting the IND development for brilaroxazine dermal application, topical application, that we expect to come next year for phase 1 study. So that is a very encouraging data what we have, we would like to pursue. And then with respect to the clinical outcome for additional indications or neuroinflammation, we have already have an orphan designation for developing brilaroxazine for pulmonary arterial hypertension and then pulmonary fibrosis. FDA has already granted orphan designation. So based on the available financial resource, we would like to advance those program to clinical phase 2 proof of concept. But the primary focus in the next 18 months is to complete the schizophrenia studies by mid of next year and submit NDA for schizophrenia. And then also, we would like to pursue additional neuropsychiatric indications, major depressive disorder, bipolar, and ADHD. These are based on the clinical data generated to date. We are very optimistic the potential of this drug for treating these major indications. So these are the multiple indications closely related to neuropsychiatric conditions and neuroinflammation. We would like to pursue in the next 12 to 24 months. We will prioritize which program to advance based on the available resources. So that's our plan in the next 12 to 24 months.
And what the schizophrenia is certainly a huge market. Certainly, you tend to think larger pharma for this potential partnerships. How would you characterize the potential partnership environment currently, given the data you've put out and the potential for the other pipeline programs?
So, if you look at the partnering dynamics in the last 10 years, if you look back in the last decade, so the partnering or an M&A activities happened mainly after the phase 3 completion, or the companies that had a phase 3 completion product or some of the early or a proof of concept in the this space. And so we believe at this stage, based on the data generated and then inbound request from major pharma, we have received good interest from a good number of requests from major pharma. We currently, a few pharma companies are doing due diligence. So we remain very optimistic about the partnering prospects. But again, as a public company and having good data, we will act accordingly that in the best interest of our shareholders, where it can create more value. Yes, we are looking for partnership. At the same time, it has to meet our value expectation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I see we're coming up on a couple minutes left. We're coming up on our 30-minute mark. Any closing remarks you'd like to make? And thank you again for your time today.
Yeah, thanks again. Again, Lytham has been a great supporter of Reviva, and then thanks for the opportunity. As I quick pointed out at the beginning, 2023 was a eventful year for Reviva. We completed the pivotal phase 3 study with the positive top-line results. And then moving forward in the 2024, we believe this is a really transformative year for Reviva, 2024, and then the first half of 2025, as we are marching towards completion of the second phase 3 study as anticipated, and then putting NDA by mid of 2025. So we remain very optimistic about the outcome and the future prospects for Reviva. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. Jim, Dr. Bhatt, thank you very much for your time today. I certainly found that informative, and I believe our audience will as well. Before we wrap up, 2 quick reminders to anyone out there who's not already signed up for a one-on-one. Again, please send me an email at shamsian@lythampartners.com, or again, visit lythampartners.com/select2024. Jim, Dr. Bhatt, thank you again for your time, and we hope everyone enjoys the rest of their conference. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.